Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and man, I really appreciate you guys spending some time with me on the video. Definitely never take that for granted. Know there's so many other channels you guys could be watching, so I really appreciate you guys coming by Intuitive Angling and spending some time with me. Guys, today I want to talk about really the unknown reason why a Senko or a soft plastic stick bait is so good. There's a lot of people that have theories on this, but I'm going to tell you the reason this bait is so good. And I think a lot of people would never even, think about that, but we're going to go over that in today's video. And also I'm going to give you guys some of my personal favorite tips and advice on how to fish it and the conditions to fish it in. So we're going to get into that. Also, guys, quick reminder that today, this is November 1st, the day I'm filming this video. Tackle Warehouse just announced their their Black Friday sale, which starts today. And they've got deep discounts on about everything on the website. There's not a better time to get stocked up on stuff than right now at the Black Friday sale. I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description. And if you guys use that link, it's a really good way to help the channel out here and get you some really good deals on tackle there too. So link in the description of the video. Okay guys, I'm gonna get right into this. I'm gonna show you why this thing is so good, in my opinion, and I'm gonna talk about it. The number one reason is, take a look at this, guys. What is that right there? When I rub this thing, that is salt coming to the surface. This right here, in my opinion, is probably one of the main reasons that a Senko and a soft plastic stick bait is so effective for catching bass. Because guys, I'm telling you right now, over the past 20 years, without a doubt, there has been more bass taken in the United States of America on a soft plastic stick bait than any other lure out there. And this is a big reason, because look at the difference between the same bait, not showing the salt out there, and the other one's showing the salt. Now, the reason this salt is so important is a couple different reasons. First of all, it capitalizes on the bass's olfactory senses, because when this thing is on the bottom, when you're working the soft plastic stick bait along the bottom, the bass doesn't swim up and just boom, just get it like that. Most of the time, they'll swim up like that and they'll study it and they'll look around and they come at different angles and they nose down on this thing, and they get their nose like that far away from that bait, or maybe even touch their nose on it. And when that salt is right there to the surface of that thing, that is a natural scent. It's like part of the, almost like a blood type scent. And I think that you get a lot of strikes from a soft plastic stick bait that's heavily salted, from the sense of smell. Another thing is that one of the reasons it's so good is the salt. It actually gives it a little bit more action. I think it gives it a different look in the water, and also it adds some weight to it. So the way that the bait falls with salt in it is different than a traditional plastic worm with no salt in it, or even light salt, because there's a big difference between having a soft plastic lure that's got a little bit of salt in it and some that's heavily salted, like these Senkos and the soft plastic stick baits, like the Zoom's Linky right here. Okay, so that's probably the main element to that. Now, let's talk a little bit about taking advantage of that. What you want to do, some basic tips and advice on fishing a soft plastic stick bait. In my opinion, guys, as far as learning to fish this thing, you can't go wrong by fishing the thing at a snail's pace, really slow, regardless how you rig it. You can rig it wacky rigged, just in the middle like that. You can Texas rig it. You can throw it on a Carolina rig. You can throw it on a swing head jig. You can throw it anything that you want to put a soft plastic lure on. You can catch fish on it. But the two ways that I have caught more bass by far on this lure than anything else is either wacky rigging it in the center like that, or Texas rigging it with a 1/16 ounce slip sinker. Now, the thing about this is, when people say, well, God, 1/16 of an ounce is almost like using no weight at all. It's not at all, because when you're using a heavily salt impregnated lure with a 1/16 of an ounce sinker, it falls at a pretty decent rate with that. And I usually couple it up on a flipping stick. This isn't like a finesse deal. I'm throwing it on a flipping stick, usually with like 17-pound test Seaguar and Vizex line. And the way this thing falls, with like a 3/0 hook in it, and 17-pound line and the 16th ounce weight on it, there's something about the rate of fall on this thing that the bass just can't resist. Pitching it and flipping it around shallow water cover, I've never seen anything like it. So it's the combination of a lot of different stuff. It's a combination of the length and the diameter profile, the salt, the action of it, the natural the natural action that doesn't give itself away. There's no sound signature on this bait for the bass to get conditioned to, because most other lures out there, you talk about some of the most popular lures out there, like a jerkbait, a chatterbait, a spinnerbait. They all have noise signatures. They displace water, they create vibration, they have different type of sound coming through the water. And a lot of times the bass can get conditioned to those sounds, or if they're not in the right mood and personality, that can be a negative. It can repulse them. But when you're talking about a soft plastic stick bait, it's completely silent and completely quiet. So the bass, they don't have that ability to get conditioned to it from a sound perspective. So it's like a little earthworm or whatever crawling along the bottom. Biggest bass I ever caught in my life was on a soft plastic stick bait down at Lake Okeechobee. I've caught a lot of big ones on it, and I've caught a lot of different numbers. Another thing about this, I'll include my couple soft plastic stick bait links in the description of this video. Don't get just hung up, guys, on like these watermelons and green pumpkins. There's a lot of different color available out there. I mean, like this is the, like the zoom makes this Slinky here, a lot of different colors. You got some dark colors in it. You got some shad patterns. There's a lot of different color options to it. And I would venture to say that the green pumpkin and the watermelon is probably the two of the colors I use the least, because that's what everybody does. When they buy a soft plastic stick bait, they get a watermelon or a green pumpkin, and that's it. And there's such a wide range of colors that you can have. Just experiment with that. A lot of it has to do with the water clarity. For example, if the water clarity I'm fishing is like under 2 foot deep, I'm usually using some type of a darker color like this, a black and blue, or some type of a blue flake. And as it gets, cleaner, then I'll go to the more natural, the more translucent colors with that. But the main thing to remember on a soft plastic stick bait, guys, is just fish slow and take your time with it. When you're throwing this thing on a lightweight or no weight or on a wacky rig, give it time to get down there. Just give it time to get down there and let it sit there and soak a while. You've heard of the term dead sticking for bass. Where dead sticking is where you throw your lure out there and just let it set for as long as you can stand it. This is a really common, famous technique in Florida. And this is the type of lure category that you dead stick. It's something really subtle like this, where the bass can steady it, they're swimming around, they finally see this thing on the bottom, and your line will just take off moving with that. So when you get into an area where you're getting a few bites, let's say, for example, you're fishing down a row of boat docks, you're pitching to dock pilings or something, and say that you fish maybe 10 docks through this stretch here, and you've caught bass off of 2 or 3 of those docks. You can bet there's bass on every dock. You're not, just because you go past the dock without a bite doesn't mean there's not a bass there. If you get into an area like that where you're getting some bites, that's the time to try to dead stick a soft plastic stick bait. That's the time when you pitch in next to that dock piling, it's got some good shade on it, pitch that thing in there. If you don't get a strike when it first hits the bottom, just sit there and hold it. Don't move it. Maybe just shake it like that in one spot and let it sit there as long as you can stand it. I mean, there's times when the bass are not aggressive where you can let that thing sit there for a minute and, all of a sudden one will move out with it. I tell you how you can figure this out and how I figured it out. I can't tell you how many times that I've been fishing a soft plastic stick bait, and maybe I got a backlash in my reel, or maybe I made a pitch out there and, I had to, go down to the bottom of the boat. Maybe I had some rods, messed up, or maybe I wanted to get a drink of water or something, and I just laid my rod down there. And when I got back up there 10 or 15 or 20, 25 seconds later, my line would be swimming out to the middle of the lake with a fish on it. So that's one important thing to remember. And finally, with this thing, when you're talking about salt, take advantage of roughing this thing up. This is an old trick I told you guys about years ago on the channel. Anytime you're fishing a soft plastic stick bait, do this with it. Rough the whole thing up from one end to the other. And what that does, here's the same bait, roughed up and not roughed up, and it makes it look how much natural this looks, like an earthworm in the water. And every soft plastic stick bait, regardless of the color, if you've got heavy salt in it, it will make it look like a natural earthworm. So anyway, guys, just a few quick tips there. Hope it helps you guys catch one, and we'll talk later.